Premier John Horgan takes questions hours after a provincial state of emergency is called.
But for those who are living through yet another horrific fire season, this is a graphic reminder of how climate change is with us, not just intermittently, but all the time. Whether it's successive difficult fire seasons or floods or the heat dome, which is the first we've experienced, which I'm hopeful will be the last, but that's not the evidence that we're seeing on the horizon.
An acknowledgement that things are probably going to get a whole lot worse. Concern for the mental health of evacuees is growing, especially in First Nation communities already dealing with a litany of stresses.
Well, this is a really challenging wildfire season for BC First Nations. There's a lot going on right now, not just the wildfires, but the unmarked graves being found at different former sites of residential schools. And so I think there's a lot of trauma that people are experiencing and re-experiencing.
There's the danger of evacuation, the fear of losing a home, and then sometimes yet another layer of trauma is heaped on.
Evacuees have actually experienced racist comments when they've arrived at the evacuation centers. And I think in some cases people feel that they are treated not as well as non-Indigenous evacuees. So, for example, being housed in hotel rooms that are substandard.
Fanny Vance watched her community burn in 2018. She helped feed and house firefighters. Eventually, she was also forced to flee. A year later, diagnosed with PTSD, she still suffered a reoccurring nightmare.
So my nightmares are the fire burning over the back of that bluff and coming down at me like a wave, like a ocean wave.
Research shows First Nations wildfire evacuations is a larger issue than most think.
First Nation communities are actually disproportionately impacted by wildfire in Canada. We've had over 1,000 wildfire evacuation events across the nation, but over 49% of those in our recent analysis were actually of Indigenous communities with greater than 50% Indigenous population.
Christensen says officials still have yet to really speak to First Nation evacuees about their unique experiences. One area that is working, communities stepping up to lend a helping hand.
It seems like there's the most success is actually the ones where First Nations are also set up to help in host communities. So the one example is Tecumseh's in Kamloops. I mean, they have just done a fantastic job back in 2018 evacuations, but also this year, where they've really set up like their powwow ground to host evacuees.
One of the reasons that people become so distressed is because none of what's happening to them is within their control, and having to live with that uncertainty going forward even for weeks or months at a time is really stressful for people. So again, that's another reason why we encourage and we are trying to offer as many mental health supports as possible.
Rob Smith, APTN National News, Vancouver.